was only supposed to be there for a week. I normally work at another storage facility across town. Same company, different location. A few days before Christmas, my supervisor called and asked if I could cover one of our older sites just until the holidays were over. The man who ran that place had passed away suddenly. Heart attack, I was told. His name was Frank. He had worked that facility for over 30 years. Nobody really knew much about him beyond that. Quiet, meticulous, very particular about routines. The kind of person who kept handwritten notes for everything. They could not find a permanent replacement on short notice, not that close to Christmas. So I was sent in as a temporary substitute. Just keep things running, lock up on time, follow Frank's notes. That was the phrase everyone used. Follow his notes and you'll be fine. My first day there was December 22nd. The facility sat on the edge of town, older than the one I usually worked at. Long concrete corridors, metal doors, motion-activated lights that shut off if you stood still too long. Frank's office was exactly how you would expect. Clean, no clutter. A thick notebook on the desk, filled with neat handwriting, opening and closing procedures, gate codes, which units had automatic payments, who to call if something broke. Everything was documented. The day went smoothly. A few customers stopped by to grab decorations or gifts they had stored. Nobody caused problems. I locked the gate at 6, same as instructed, and went home thinking the job would be boring. Good. Boring was good, especially for this time of year when certain jobs did not really slow down. My job was perfect. The second day was more of the same, and I felt glad for it. Great. I just needed to get through one more day before we closed for Christmas and New Year's. We closed at 6 p.m. sharp. I put the sign up on the gate that read, "Closed for the holidays," to let any potential new customers know we would not be able to accommodate them this week. I did my walkthrough and checked each corridor like Frank's notes said. That was when I noticed one of the hallway lights was still on. Unit 117. The lights were motion-based. If nobody was there, they shut off after a minute or two. This one stayed on. I assumed a customer was still inside and called out, letting them know we were closing. No response. I walked down the corridor, my footsteps echoing louder than usual. Unit 117's door was open. Inside, I saw a chair. A simple plastic chair positioned near the back wall, and a man sitting in it. He was tall, thin, well-dressed, not like someone who belonged there. His posture was straight, his hands folded calmly in his lap, as if he had all the time in the world. I told him again that we were closed and he would need to leave. He looked at me, studied my face for a moment, and said politely, "I will need my time." That caught me off guard. I repeated myself, firmer this time. Told him I had to lock up. He smiled slightly, not amused, just acknowledging. "You are new," he said. "Frank used to handle this himself." The way he said Frank's name made my stomach tighten. I asked how he knew Frank. He smirked. "Oh, we go a long way back." Those words filled me with a sense of dread, and that was when I really noticed his face. He looked younger than I expected. No lines, no strain. The kind of face you associate with someone who had not had to rush anywhere in a long time. The man tilted his head, almost curious. "I hope he left you instructions." Something about that annoyed me. I had been patient, professional, and now this stranger was questioning how I did my job. I told him I was calling security. I lifted my radio and tried to contact them. Static. I adjusted it and tried again. Nothing but interference. When I looked back at the man, his expression had not changed, but the air in the room felt heavier. "I told you," he said calmly. noticed the wall behind him. The steel surface was polished enough to reflect light. I could see the chair clearly, but not him. The moment that realization hit me, his eyes flicked toward the wall, then back to me. His voice dropped, still controlled, but colder. "I asked you to leave me alone." The hallway lights went out. I did not argue. I did not speak. I ran. Once I was outside, my phone had reception again. I called security, stumbling over my words. Before they even arrived, my phone rang. Head office. They told me to leave immediately and go home. No explanation. That night, I barely slept. I dreamt of dark corridors and doors that never opened, of time passing differently in enclosed spaces. I woke up once, gasping, my heart racing for no clear reason. When I finally calmed down, it struck me that I had followed Frank's notes exactly on my first day, and that corridor had not been part of my route. The next morning, I went back with a senior manager and a security supervisor. They asked me one question. "Did you read all of Frank's notes?" I said yes. They exchanged a look, then took the notebook from the desk. One of them flipped past the sections I had been using, past the opening and closing procedures, past the maintenance logs, past the customer records. Near the back, he slid a finger along the edge of the pages and pressed. The binding loosened slightly. A folded sheet slipped out from where it had been tucked into the spine itself. Paper worn thin from being handled, then hidden again. Written smaller, carefully. Unit 117, do not disturb, paid in full, December only. There was more. Below it, written in the same careful handwriting, were a few short lines. Not a story, not an explanation, just facts, spaced out like Frank had not wanted to put too many of them too close together. There had been an accident in Eastern Europe, somewhere remote, the kind of place where help did not arrive quickly and sometimes did not arrive at all. Frank had been certain he was not going to make it. The man found him there. What exactly he did was not written down, only the outcome. Frank survived, walked away, went home, lived another 33 years. This was how he repaid it. 1 month a year, December, privacy, no questions, no interruptions, paid in full, every time. This was the arrangement. They told me Frank understood what would happen if the agreement was broken. This year, with Frank gone, nobody had warned me properly. The manager closed the notebook and told me the unit would remain sealed until January. I did not ask questions. I did not go back. Now, whenever I happen to drive past that facility around Christmas, the sign is up, closed for the holidays, and somewhere deep inside, a light stays on. Yeah, I know. Look, everyone I know already berates me enough for being a mall Santa, so I don't need to hear it from you too, all right? Besides, it's not like it's that bad. I mean, sure, the pay sucks, and some of the kids smell like cheese, but hey, seeing those smiles really made everything worth it. I did have the occasional crier, however, wailing at the top of their tiny lungs at the sight of the strange man in the red suit. But other than that, I was serving up happiness all month long. That's not why I'm writing this, though. No, I'm writing this because, just moments ago, before the world fell into pieces and seemed to stop spinning for a brief period of time, I was greeted by a boy who changed my entire outlook on life. I work at a busy mall, you know. This isn't some 50 to 100 kids a day type of scenario. I'm hearing the wishes of hundreds of kids nearly every weekend. After a while, faces begin to blur, you know. You can't remember all of them, and eventually they all start to look the same. Just kids, I guess. That wasn't the case for this boy, though. Most kids I see are usually dressed in cute little Christmas PJs for Grandma's Christmas card. This boy wore a suit that looked to be specifically designed and tailored. His hair had been neatly combed over to the side, and he looked like he was dressed for a business meeting rather than a meeting with Santa Claus. He couldn't have been older than 5 or 6 yet. As he approached me, he carried himself as though he were an old man. Ever so slowly, he shuffled towards my lap as I looked on, trying to hide my underlying nerves behind a smile fit for jolly old St. Nicholas. As he hopped onto my lap, I could have sworn that he weighed at least 90 pounds, which shouldn't have been possible given his slender physique. Regardless of how I felt, I went about my usual shtick. Merry Christmas, little boy. I certainly hope you've been a good boy this year. I looked up at his mom to gauge her reaction and was stunned to find that she looked almost paranoid. Eyes hollow and dark as she glanced around nervously, tapping her foot with anxiety. Why don't you tell Santa what you'd like for Christmas this year? The boy flashed the cutest smile that I had seen all day, and his face blushed with excitement. His eyes, however, oh my God, his eyes. They looked ancient, far too wise and distant for a boy his age. "I want a fire truck," he shouted eagerly. "Oh ho ho ho, of course you do, my boy. All boys your age want a fire truck. What else can Santa bring you?" Clapping his hands together and laughing cheerily, the boy then added, "A Nintendo," to the list. "That's another big one kids seem to love. Santa will see what he can do, kiddo. Anything else you'd like before I send you back to Mom?" The boy placed a hand over his chin, pondering his next response. An idea seemed to strike him, and he pulled me towards him, eager to whisper something in my ear. My blood ran cold, and I broke into a cold sweat once the words escaped his lips. "I want them to bow to me, Santa." I broke away from his grasp and just sort of stared at him as he began giggling. He pulled me back once more and continued with his wish. "I want their souls, Santa, each and every one of them. Their humanly despair fills me with such glee. Please, Santa, pretty please, can you make them afraid of me? I have never been more perplexed in my entire life. Surely the people around us had to be picking up on this, right? Nope. As I stared, a voice called from the podium in front of us. "Look right here, Santa. Everybody say cheese." "Cheese," the boy proclaimed. And just like that, the boy's mother then came and took him from my lap. As they walked away, she turned back towards me and mouthed a silent, "Thank you, I'm so sorry," before disappearing into the crowds of people, the boy dangling almost lifelessly over her shoulder. And that was that. Going to be completely honest, I had to take a long break after that one. But hey, they're gone, and now here I am, having a nervous breakdown in the mall parking lot. Not sure what to even say about this at this point. I just pray to God that kid isn't too disappointed this Christmas. Every year, my mother hung 5 stockings on the fireplace. One for her, one for my father, one for me, one for my sister, and one more. No name, no initials, just a plain red stocking that did not match the set. When I was little, I asked who it was for. She smiled and said, "It's just tradition." That answer worked when I was 6. It worked less when I was 10. By the time I was 14, it started to get annoying. Nobody touched it. If it shifted, my mother fixed it without a word. If it fell, it was the first thing she put back. And on Christmas morning, it was always empty. I was born on December 24th, and as a kid, I used to complain that my birthday got swallowed by Christmas. My sister would tease me and say I was a practice run for Christmas. My mother would snap at her to knock it off, then go back to whatever she was doing like nothing had happened. I went away for college, then started working. I came home most December. The stocking was always there. Same place, same plain red fabric, same careful distance from the others. I'm 25 now and home later than usual. Flights were a mess. I walked into the house on the night of the 23rd and found my mother in the kitchen, staring into a pot she was barely stirring. She hugged me tightly and asked about my work and the trip, but her attention drifted even as she spoke. It wasn't unusual anymore. As she got older, moments like that had become more common. My dad was cheerful in the forced way he got when he wanted things to feel normal. My sister was loud, talking over herself about food and movies. My mother moved through it all like she was ticking boxes. When she hung the stockings, I watched from the hallway. 4 went up quickly. The 5th made her pause. She held it for a moment, fingers pressed into the fabric, then hung it and stepped back. Her hands shook. She tucked them into her sleeves like she could hide it. I asked if she was okay. She nodded and said she was fine. On Christmas Eve, the house did what it always did. Cooking, cleaning, wrapping, loud music. My mother kept checking the fireplace, not the stockings, the fireplace itself. There was the small matter of my birthday as well, of course. By then, I was used to it being treated like an afterthought. We cut a small cake like we always did, just the 4 of us. My sister made her usual jokes whenever my mom was out of earshot. After dinner, I went into the living room to turn off the lights and noticed something. The red stocking sagged, just slightly, like something had weight inside. I stood there longer than I meant to, telling myself it was nothing. Old fabric, a loose hook, but it kept pulling at my attention. I went into the kitchen and asked my mother, casually, if she had put something in the extra stocking this year. She stopped moving, did not turn around. "Don't," she said. I waited, then quieter. "Don't touch it." Her voice stayed calm. Her hands did not. One of them gripped the counter hard enough that her knuckles went pale. I should have listened. I went upstairs and got into bed, annoyed with myself for even caring. A stupid stocking, a stupid family tradition stuck with us for years. But her voice stuck with me. Not what she said, how she said it. I stayed awake thinking about it, and about all the last Christmases. How every year my birthday became an afterthought, and how my mother always nitpicked over small things that didn't matter. Late that night, I went back downstairs. The living room was dim with tree lights, quiet in the normal way, nothing out of place. The stocking still sagged. I reached inside. My fingers touched something cold. Not wet, not sharp. Just cold in a way that did not belong in a warm house. I pulled out a small cloth bundle tied with string. My heart started racing. I told myself to stop. Instead, I untied it. Inside was a hospital bracelet, tiny, yellowed, old. There was some writing in barely legible blue ink, a date. I could make out December, but not the date or year. The writing was old and smudged. There was also my last name, but not my first name, a different one. I stared at it until my vision blurred. I reached back into the stocking. My fingers brushed a newborn mitten, so small it barely looked real. I did not hear my mother come down the stairs. I only noticed her when she spoke. "Put it back." Her voice was flat, empty. I turned. She stood at the bottom step in her robe, hair loose, face pale. I held up the bracelet and asked what it was. She looked at it for a long time, then sat down hard on the couch. She pressed her palms against her knees, staring at the floor like she was bracing herself. "I always knew you'd find out," she finally said quietly. "I just hoped I wouldn't have to be the one to say it." "You had a twin," she said. I laughed once, short and hollow. She did not react. "He didn't make it," she said. "You almost didn't either." I felt cold all over. I said we would have known. She shook her head, said I was a baby, said my sister wasn't born yet, said they didn't want me growing up with a ghost in the house. She stared at the bracelet. After the hospital, she said, she couldn't sleep, couldn't stand the quiet, couldn't stop thinking there should have been 2 cries. Instead, both my brother and I were in the neonatal ICU, surrounded by beeping and waiting. On Christmas Eve, she asked for help. She looked at the fireplace when she said it. She said it came the first time through the chimney. Not a person, but something she couldn't quite name or explain. It didn't say much. It didn't need to. It showed her what she wanted to see. Me breathing, me warm, me coming home. It made the choice for her at least, so that a mother didn't have to make the heartbreaking choice. "The 24th was never your birthday," she said. "It was the day you were returned to us. Your brother took your place." She told me it didn't ask. It told her, "Only one of you goes home, and the one who stays alive has to make room." It told her one thing, that the stocking had to stay up, that it had to be filled with small things that belonged to my brother. Not flesh, not blood, just reminders. A mitten, a toy, the bracelet from the hospital. And every year, when it came back, it would take something with it. So the space stayed balanced. So the gift it had given didn't tip the scales. And if the stocking was ever empty when it came, it would take the gift back instead. That was why the stocking stayed empty on Christmas morning, why nobody touched it, why she fixed it, why she watched the fireplace. Because whatever my mom put inside it on Christmas Eve was always gone by morning. "So, what happens now?" I asked. She didn't answer. She looked at my hands, at the bracelet, at the mittens. Her face changed. "You opened it," she said. I told her I didn't know. "I told you not to," she said, panic breaking through. The tree lights blinked. Then the fireplace made a sound. Not a crackle, a scrape, like something moving where nothing should be moving. She stood up too fast. "Put it back," she said. I stepped toward the stocking. My hands shook. The bracelet slipped against my palm. The scrape came again, closer. Soot drifted down into the fireplace. She begged me to move fast. I shoved the bracelet and mittens back into the stocking, pushing my hand deep inside like I could undo it. My mother was shaking her head hard, at a loss for words. I felt the fireplace thumping, heavy, settling. Ash shifted. Something had come down the chimney and was in our house. The stocking hung still on the mantel, no longer decorative, no longer harmless. It was a marker. My mother whispered not to move. A shape shifted in the dark, tall enough that my mind refused to measure it. A voice came from the fireplace. Nothing like I have ever heard before, and not something I can even describe. "It was empty when I came," it said, with a tone of terrifying finality. "No," my mother started to cry. "Please don't. It wasn't his fault. He didn't know." The stocking swayed, slow and deliberate, like something answering a call. I understood then that when I reached inside earlier, I hadn't just taken the bracelet. I hadn't hadn't just disturbed a ritual. I had taken the space that had been left for him. The voice came again, closer now. I will have what is mine. The gift I gave can no longer stay. My mother made a sound I had never heard before, something between a sob and a plea, but it was already over. I stood there staring at the chimney and the entity, finally understanding why my mother never celebrated Christmas or my birthday. She had just been waiting for it to end.